Stop lying to yourself. You think you want a classic Shelby Mustang. Half of you wouldn't survive 10 minutes behind the wheel of a real one. You'd be crying for power steering, whining about exhaust fumes, and begging for a softer suspension. Because in 1965, Carroll Shelby didn't build a Sunday cruiser for modern softies. He built an uncompromising, rough, track-focused weapon designed to humiliate Chevys in SCCA competition. Go ahead, tell me I'm wrong in the comments. You can't. The 1965 GT350 was built for lap times, not comfort, and it did not care about your feelings. But here's the dirty secret most Mustang guys pretend not to notice. The very first year was the only year it stayed truly pure. Almost immediately, Ford started softening it up, fattening it up, and diluting the recipe to chase volume sales. By the end of the decade, it wasn't even Shelby's car anymore. Let's geek out on the hardware that made the 1965 GT350 an absolute unit. Shelby American took a stock Mustang fastback straight out of Ford's San Jose assembly plant with an R in the VIN, shipped it down to Venice Beach, and completely gutted its manners. Under the hood sat a Windsor 289 cubic inch hypo K-code V8. Out of the box from Ford, that motor made 271 horsepower. Shelby laughed at that number. They bolted on a massive 4-barrel Holley 725 CFM carburetor sitting on a high-rise intake manifold, what the marketing guys hyped as the Cobra High-Riser. Throw in a set of tri-Y headers and boom, 306 horsepower at 6,000 RPM and 329 pound-feet of torque. That was a serious pile of grunt for a lightweight car in 1965, and you couldn't get an automatic if you begged. Power went strictly through a BorgWarner T10 4-speed manual down to a heavy-duty 9-inch live rear axle. Stopping this thing wasn't for the faint of heart either. Shelby threw out the weak stock setups and bolted on massive Ford Galaxy rear drum brakes with metallic linings, paired with Kelsey Hayes disc brakes up front. To make it turn, they relocated the A-arms and slapped on overrider traction bars. Early 1965 cars even had the battery stuffed in the trunk for better weight balance. Know why they stopped doing that mid-year? Because buyers complained about toxic battery fumes inside the cabin. That is how raw this thing was. It rode on special 130-mile-per-hour Goodyear blue dot tires with that iconic blue ring on the sidewall. Dual exhausts exited right out the sides through glassback mufflers, screaming directly at the pavement right under your ears. Every single 1965 car left the factory in Wimbledon white with Guardsman blue rocker stripes. Only 28% got the famous Le Mans roof stripes from the dealer. Total 1965 production, just 562 units. Rare, loud, and bad as hell. And if you think the street car was wild, Shelby built 34 race-spec competition models known as the GT350R. No creature comforts, no soft trim, just pure mechanical violence tailored for SCCA rules. And guess what? The GT350R obliterated the competition, dominating as the SCCA B production champion for 3 straight years in a row. It proved that Carroll Shelby could take a commuter pony car and turn it into a legitimate world-beating road racer. Assembly shifted from Venice Beach over to Los Angeles International Airport as momentum built. The street cars were fast, the race cars were legends, and the reputation was officially bulletproof. But success in motorsports brings corporate attention, and corporate attention is where the pure street racer ethos goes to die. Right on cue, 1966 hits and the softening begins. Ford wanted to sell more cars, which meant catering to casual drivers who couldn't handle a raw race car on their morning commute. For 1966, they dropped the Mustang tag completely and marketed it simply as the Shelby GT350. Suddenly, you could get it in non-white paint like red, blue, green, and black. They dumped the trunk battery and tossed out the overrider traction bars. The rough rear seat delete was replaced with an optional factory fold-down seat. They swapped the side exit exhaust for standard rear exits, changed the engine paint from black to standard Ford dark blue, and added rear quarter-panel windows. But the ultimate sin for purists, they offered an optional select-shift 3-speed automatic transmission. Production skyrocketed to 2,378 units for 1966. Great for Ford's bank account, bad for the car's hardcore identity. Now 1966 wasn't entirely boring. It gave us 2 of the coolest anomalies in Shelby history. First was the Hertz Rent-A-Racer program. Ford used its major ownership in Hertz to buy 1,003 fastbacks labeled GT350H models, so everyday people could rent a legit Shelby, thrash it for the weekend, and return it. After their rental lives were done, Ford refurbished them and sold them to the public. But the real psycho build of 1966 was the optional Paxton supercharger. For an extra $670, about $6,600 in today's money, Shelby would bolt a supercharger onto that 289 V8. Output exploded to a mind-blowing 440 horsepower. The catch? They didn't include the no-spin limited slip differential with it. Imagine putting 440 horsepower through a 1960s rear axle with open tires on narrow rubber. That wasn't just fast, that was downright terrifying. In 1967 and 1968, the trend was unstoppable. The cars grew progressively larger, heavier, and far more luxury-focused at the direct expense of track performance. In 1968, production was yanked away from California entirely and moved to A.O. Smith in New Jersey, carrying a T in the VIN. By 1969, Carroll Shelby had completely had it. He was no longer involved in the GT program at all. Ford took the design entirely in-house, turning the 1969 GT350 and GT500 into little more than heavy, bloated styling packages slapped onto standard Mustangs. The raw, lightweight track monster born in Venice Beach was officially dead, replaced by corporate appearance packages. Carroll walked away, and the original run folded after 1970. It took Ford until 2005 to finally revive the Shelby nameplate on the fifth-generation Mustang platform, bringing high-performance Shelby badging back to life after decades in the vault. But whenever somebody tries to talk big about Shelby history, remind them where the soul came from. It wasn't the heavy 1969 Boulevard cruisers. It was the noisy, smelly, teeth-shattering 1965 GT350 with a high-rise manifold, side exhausts, and 306 angry horsepower. So tell me in the comments, are you taking the raw 1965 track original, or are you coping and picking the comfortable later models? Drop your take below, and don't forget to subscribe for more no BS car history.